Police investigators may have a difficult time in determining that, but we do know that at least it was in part planned. This rampage was planned. The killer was carrying a lot of ammunition. The gunman, now identified as Clemmy Henderson, was intent on murder when he walked into the Comet Auto Parts store at 13th and Ashland this morning, and according to witnesses, just opened fire. The owner, John Van Dyke, and an employee, Robert Quinn, were killed on the spot. Another store employee played dead after Henderson fired a shot at him. Outside the store, witnesses described Henderson as he walked toward the Montefiore School. Was he screaming? Or how
just talking numbly. He was just talking numbly, telling everybody to get out the way. And he had bullets all around him, yeah.
So he had a belt of bullets on? What kind of gun?
He reloaded. When he shot in there, he reloaded again.
The next victim shot was a streets and sanitation worker who was picking up garbage. Chet Ladosi was only wounded in the hand. The gunman then opened fire on the Montefiore School engineer, Art Baker, killing him. At a news conference, Police Superintendent Leroy Martin explained what happened next, how police officer Irma Ruiz was shot and killed.
The offender went down Ashland Avenue, came through the front door, and that's where he encountered the two police officers, Officer Irma Ruiz and Officer Gregory Jaglowski. He opened fire, wounding Officer Jaglowski, who fell outside of the door onto Ashland Avenue, and he had fatally wounded Officer Ruiz at this time.
This is tape of paramedics working on Officer Jaglowski after he was shot. This is an ambulance outside the Montefiore School.
Officer Jaglowski, although wounded, had recovered sufficiently to re-enter the building. Officer Jaglowski encountered the offender. A second round of fire was exchanged by the offender and Jaglowski. Jaglowski took 2 more hits, but he managed to fatally wound the offender, Henderson.
This is the gunman, Clemmy Henderson, arriving at Cook County Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. According to police, he still had a lot of bullets with him at the time he was shot and killed by police officer Gregory Jaglowski.
And I make the assumption that had he not encountered them with 22 bullets in his pocket, that he was out to commit mayhem on people.
People here in the neighborhood described Clem Henderson as a troubled man. They described him as being somewhat crazy. Some said he walked around here with a Bible, did a lot of unusual things. And as new information comes in, some of it at least tends to support what some of the neighbors here believed about him. They said he was one of the regulars around the neighborhood, and they thought that he had mental problems. A few minutes ago, Eyewitness News learned that at least on a paper form, Henderson claimed in 1987, when he was trying to get child support payments reduced, so he apparently has children, he was trying to get those payments reduced, he reported that he'd been shot in the head during a robbery back in 1985. He also said at that time that the doctors were unable to remove some of the bullet fragments from his head. That was supposedly causing him some medical problems such as seizures and a continuing deterioration of his mental health. None of this is confirmed at the present time. This is information that is coming into us at the present time, and it may, if it is true, in fact, explain some of the incredibly bizarre behavior that he engaged in today. It's been an extraordinary day. 5 people dead, including the killer, Clemmy Henderson. For more on the story now, we go to Alan Kraszewski, who's at Cook County Hospital. Alan?
Well, Jim, I just simply want to clarify the situation regarding the victims today. Recapping, there were 7 people shot today. Out of those 7 people, 2 of them were declared dead right at the scene. 4 people were then brought here to Cook County Hospital. Out of those 4 people brought here to county, 3 of those victims died. There is also 1 other person who was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital, a police officer. That police officer is alive and out at Mount Sinai right now. Now, when word of the shooting got out over the radios by the paramedics, the people here, the doctors and nurses at Cook County Hospital, mobilized immediately. They are used to that. It is nothing unusual. But in most of the cases that came here, unfortunately, there was little they could do. In just 15 minutes' time, the victims poured into County Hospital, one after another. 2 of those shot had no signs of life. 33-year-old Arthur Baker and Chicago Police Youth Officer Irma Ruiz, both shot through the heart. Still, doctors tried to save them.
They come in without vital signs, essentially no blood pressure, no heart rate. We will attempt to open their chest and resuscitate their heart as best we can, but we were not able to get her back.
Clem Henderson, the man allegedly responsible for the shootings, arrived unconscious and died shortly afterward.
He was shot in the back of the head as well as in the abdomen, the left upper abdomen.
Family members of the victims were rushed into the emergency room entrance, accompanied by plainclothes police. Mayor Eugene Sawyer arrived to share in the family's grief and to offer consolation. Throughout the early afternoon, Chicago's top police officials hustled in and out of the hospital. Detectives Chief Ed Wadnicki saying only that he wanted to know if his officer was dead or alive. In the case of Irma Ruiz, the news was not good. The trauma center at County is accustomed to handling gunshot victims, medical professionals putting their feelings aside until now.
I think it gets to all of us every single time. I think each of us have our ways of distancing ourselves. And, you know, immediately when the victims come in, you don't really know much about them. So you just go ahead and do your job. And afterwards, you know, there's a little bit of mourning period for all of us. And we always question and review the cases to see if there were other things that we could do that perhaps could save them or especially save the next victim. But with these three people, I don't think there was anything else we could do.
The one victim who was brought here to Cook County Hospital and did manage to survive was LaPlace Chestnut. He was shot in the hand. He is now listed in fair condition here. They are awaiting x-ray reports on his situation right now. The other police officer who was shot, whose name is Greg Chklowski, was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital. He was wounded in both of his legs. We are told that at this hour he is in surgery right now. No word on his report at this time. Now, in addition to the police and also the mayor, the high city officials that you've seen going into Cook County Hospital today, there, of course, have been clergy here. We are told that the clergy, along with the social workers here from the hospital, have been working with relatives of the victims in helping them to deal with their sorrow. Live at Cook County Hospital, Alan Kraszewski, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Joel, Harry.
Alan, we should mention Superintendent Martin pointed out that Officer Ruiz was married and the mother of 4 children. Thank you. Thanks, Alan.